What's up, and welcome back to episode 27 of the Ramble On Podcast. It is the home of your soon-to-be 2026 national champion Loyola Chicago Ramblers. My name is Zach Coe. I'm joined, as always, by my five-star co-host, George Gabra. George, another season, season 2 of Ramble On. A lot to discuss here in part 1 of our season preview, but how has your off-season treated you?
Well, it's been great. Been watching a lot of college football here recently. We got baseball playoffs happening, World Series kicking off on Friday night, NFL action, and college hoops a week from Monday. I cannot wait. It's a great time to be a sports fan. I think October's the best month for sports, and obviously we've got November coming up here. I believe it's November 3rd. We tip off against Cleveland State. Can't wait. It's always a long off season when that final game in the tournament ends in April, and we get to come out and show the fans what we've got this season. I'm really looking forward to it, and can't wait for another season to ramble on. Let's go.
Yeah, it feels like there's always like a stretch where you aren't really thinking about things. Obviously, the portal opens like right after the tournament, and even in some cases while the tournament's still going on, and then you spend the entire summer kind of not really thinking about college hoops. And it feels like this year there hasn't been so many secret scrimmages. There's just been scrimmages, which I really like. I mean, obviously we have the Loyola DePaul game, which we'll get into a little bit. I'm not gleaning too much from that because it's an exhibition, but it feels like we always had people being like, oh, secret scrimmage, this team played this team, but now we're moving towards these games being broadcasted, televised, and like making a little bit more of a spectacle of it, which I really like because it kind of like the last week and a half I've been kind of fired up for some hoops, of course culminating with that scrimmage against DePaul.
Yeah, the scrimmage against DePaul, I know we're going to talk about that, like you said. Tough loss there, but it's only a scrimmage, and good to see them playing a real opponent to kind of get the wheels turning here before the season actually kicks off here. So very, very excited. November for college basketball, you got so many great games. You've got so many tournaments. I know Thanksgiving week is awesome, Feast week with all those tournaments in Maui, Atlantis, you can name a bunch of them, but it's great. I can't wait to get this thing going, and I do like how these teams are playing each other. I know there was one secret scrimmage. I believe you sent it to me. It was Oklahoma versus Texas Tech, I think.
Yeah,
and
it looks like a banger.
Super high-scoring game. Wish I would have took the over in that one if they had a line out. Yeah, it's fantastic. I love how these teams are already getting ready to go, and the games are going to count here, and I think 11 days from today, so ready to rock and roll here.
Yeah, just a couple house cleaning notes before we dive too deep into it. This year, our episodes are going to be on YouTube, so make sure to like and subscribe to the Entering Kenmore YouTube channel. We're going to do everything on a centralized platform just while we kind of start to build up some of the things we have going on. Obviously, Entering Kenmore is my Red Sox podcast, so if you're wondering why it's a Red Sox, unfortunately things didn't end the way we wanted them to this year, but yeah, I mean, if you're a Red Sox fan, you can check it out there, but if you're looking for Ramble On and you're like, why is this on the same page as a Red Sox podcast, it's because I do both, and we're just trying to build a following for both on that platform, so make sure to check us out over there. You can follow me on Twitter at @co_Zach. You can find George at GGGabra, and you can find the podcast at Ramble On Pod. Now that we have that out of the way, George, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the passing of Loyola legend, Sister Jean. Obviously, Sister Jean had not been around campus, not been around the team for some time now, and unfortunately, I think it was, 2 weeks ago, she passed away. So obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with Sister Jean and the entire Loyola community. Gonna miss seeing her on the sidelines, and at the games, so rest in peace to Sister Jean. George, I don't know if you have anything you want to add there.
Yeah, no, just obviously a bummer, but she lived 106 years, I believe, lived a great life, and I met her in 2019. My grandmother and my aunt were on campus, and we saw her working in her office out there in Damon, and we went over and said hello, and she just could not have been a nicer lady. I know she meant a lot to the players, a lot to the university, and a lot of many people who weren't connected to the university, so that was a very sad day, but again, she lived a great life, and she will be missed.
Yes, yeah, definitely will be missed. Nice touch from from the basketball teams wearing a Sister Jean patch on the jerseys.
Love that.
This year. There's been a lot of Twitter campaigning. I don't know if I'm sure it's reached some level of the athletic department, but to name the court after Sister Jean, so make it the Sister Jean Court at Gentile Arena.
Like that.
Some of the football stadiums have that. Like I think Alabama's like Nick Saban Field at whatever. There.
I know. It's Coach K Court at Cameron Indoor Arena.
Yeah,
so
exactly. So I think that that'd be a nice touch for Loyola Athletics, and honestly, I feel like that's something that they're gonna do here in the near future. It seems like such an easy layup to do and honor someone who meant so much to the programs and the university as a whole. So I don't have anything much else on that. Like you said, you met Sister Jean in 2019. I met Sister Jean as a freshman, waiting for the shuttle actually at Water Tower campus, and like you said, couldn't have been a nicer person. Just spread light wherever she went. So rest in peace to Sister Jean.
Yep. Again, she'll be missed, and I know the players are going to play hard for her this year, and that's definitely something that'll light a fire under them, I think. But again, just rest in peace. And I know, again, great life lived, and she'll be missed by everybody.
Yes. Alrighty. So let's dive into this part 1 of our season preview. I think we'd be looking at like a 2-hour podcast if we did everything in one fell swoop. So we're going to talk about some of the new players coming in, and there are a lot of them. A lot of roster turnover this year. Such is life in the new age of college basketball. Just taking a quick look right now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new players coming in. Obviously, a lot of graduates, and then a couple of transfers, of course, with Jaden Dawson winding up at Kansas, Jalen Quinn heading to Drake. Let's just dive right into it with some of these new players, and we'll start with someone who I don't want to jump ahead to the exhibition, but my second note on the exhibitions was I already love Dewilk Tavares. So we'll start with him. Dewilk Tavares, he's a junior guard, Charleston transfer by way of Delaware State, so this is going to be his third stop in college basketball, coming in at 6'2", 190 pounds. His career line of 13.3 points per game, 2.5 assists per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, and where he really makes his money is at the 3-point line, 41.5. Also, that's not his career line, that's his Charleston line from last year. My apologies on that one. Of course, Dewilk is a familiar name because he absolutely torched the Ramblers in Hawaii during the Diamond Head Classic as a member of Charleston. Put up 30 on 7 for 16 shooting from 3, including an absolutely ridiculous buzzer beater at the end of the first half where he just kind of heaved it over his head. Obviously, this is a Ramblers team that's looking to replace 106 threes from last year from Sheldon Edwards, which set the single-season program record. So he's going to be needed here. It's like I said, my first notes in the exhibition where I already love Dewilk Tavares, so this is a guy I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, you mentioned it. A lot of new players for Loyola, a lot of new players all around the country. I don't know the exact number of guys who went into the portal and left schools, and he's on his third school here. It seems like guys are hitting 3, 4, sometimes even 5 schools now. So, again, that's just like you said, the new age of NIL and the transfer portal, that's the way it is, and I'm very excited about Tavares here. You said it, he averaged just over 13 points per game last season for Charleston. And I remember that game at the Diamond Head against Loyola. He went off 30 points. So this is going to be a guy who I think is going to play a huge role just in the rotation. I think he's going to be able to make up for a lot of what Sheldon Edwards did last year. Obviously, he hit 106 three-pointers last season, and he's known for the three ball. 41.5% is kind of unheard of at the college level, so if he can do that again, I know not just you and I, but all the Rambler faithful are going to be very, very happy with his arrival on campus. So I think it's a big get for Drew and company, and I'm excited to see him here in Rambler colors this season because I think he's going to be a great addition for us.
Yeah, one of the things that I watched all the videos, I'm sure you did too, the Blurs breakdown series that the coaching staff did, which was awesome. Not the Twitter account, who's also a great Twitter account, but it was a video series that the the athletic department and the coaching staff did, where they kind of broke down some of the film. They were like 2-minute long each of all the newcomers. And one of the themes that really were in all of these videos were that all of these guys are used to playing in the same offense that the Ramblers have been playing in, that we've been used to seeing. So in Day Wilkes' film, there were a lot of clips of him working off screens to get open, whether it be cutting to the basket or getting open for three. So it looks like he's going to be a great fit with this offense, like all these guys are. But Drew Valentine, in, I can't remember if it was the A10 Media Day interview with the Field of 68, John Fanta, and I forget who the other co-host was there, or just his regular media availability, which I didn't love some of the questions that he was getting asked in that. Like, I felt like they were kind of cookie cutter, and it was all A10 reporters, not really so much like Loyola-centric reporters. So maybe that's something that we can add as a goal. I know we want to try to get to the A10 tournament this year. So maybe we can add that one to be at A10 Media Day next year to kind of get some more Loyola-centric points in there. But he said that when he became available, Drew said this, that Daywalk Tavares was a guy that they heavily went after because they saw firsthand the type of scorer he could be. So yeah, I already love Daywalk Tavares. I love a guy who can just chuck up a three. And Drew said in the Rambler Roundtable season preview that he's chucking up shots from like 30 feet plus in practice. And he's like, I like that he has the confidence. Yeah, I like that he has the confidence to do something like that. So if he can pull up from deep and, nothing gets the crowd going, like a transition three into a timeout or something like that. So this seems to be the guy that that's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and you mentioned trying to find guys who fit the system, because at Loyola, unfortunately, even though they are a program that's been on the rise here and they have made the tournament 3 times in the last, I guess it would be 8 seasons, it's hard to convince a player from one of these ranks of the A10 or the Missouri Valley who's got a ton of talent to come to Loyola. They're usually going to go to a place in the Big Ten, the SEC, the Big East, something like that. So I think trying to find guys who fit your system and fit your system well, who aren't necessarily being attacked by those bigger schools, maybe being overlooked a little bit, I think that's a great move by Drew Valentine and that whole coaching staff. So again, great move here, and I think he's going to be a huge addition to this team that we think is going to be really good this season.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've seen it before with Phil Alston coming from California University of Pennsylvania, a Division 2 or 3 school. Like, finding guys where you might not have necessarily, like, that might get overlooked, like you said, like guys that aren't going to jump off the page at these major schools. And I think an important note on Daywalk is that he's only a junior, so he's got 2 years of eligibility remaining, so hopefully he's here for 2 years, because I think some of that continuity, and it's something that they've talked about, obviously returning 3 starters from last year with Miles Rubin, Justin Moore returning from injury, and then Kamani Winsu. You want to continue the culture. Like, this program is built off of culture. I mean, it's on shirts. It's anywhere you can put it, that this is a team that wants to play the same way that they did in 2017, 2018 when they were making these tournament runs. Like, this isn't a program that can thrive off of high roster turnover, even though they have it this year. So ideally you have some continuation on some of these guys, and it's incredible that Drew is able to retain this type of high-level talent in Miles Rubin, Kamani Winsu, and Justin Moore. I mean, Miles Rubin could have done what Jaden Dawson did and gone to Kansas and got a bag, or gone to a Power 4 and got a bag. And something that got asked to Miles in that A10 Media Day was, why'd you stay? And he said, I didn't see any reason to leave, which is awesome. Like, that's what you want from guys. Like, when you're building this program, you want them to say, I don't have any reason to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I know we mentioned this back in April when we were talking about Dawson heading for Kansas. You don't blame a guy like Dawson heading to Kansas, because Kansas is one of the 4 or 5 blue bloods in college basketball. You have a chance to go play for Bill Self and the Jayhawks. I'm not going to say, oh, you should be staying. Go for it, because that's a great opportunity. But again, at the same time with Miles Rubin, it's great to see that the culture that they've built, and he wants to say, hey, I could go, but you know what? I love it here. I love what they've built here, and I want to stay, and I want to make this next coming year, something that we can go to the tournament and make some noise. And I think that that's what Drew and everybody, like you mentioned, has done, building this program and building that, just building the whole thing and building how the program is looked at and how guys want to remain here and they want to play for Loyola and they want to be in Rogers Park and they want to do all that. It just is such a credit to Drew and his entire coaching staff for everything that they've built there, building off of what Porter did and continuing to grow it.
Yeah, and you mentioned it when talking about Tavares, looking for guys that are overlooked and are coming from smaller schools. This next guy that we're going to talk about is coming the other way. He's coming from the ACC by way of the Big Ten. I'm talking, of course, about Josh Ola Joseph. He's a senior forward, 6'7", 215 pounds. Last year at Cal, he averaged 7.2 points per game, 2.8 rebounds per game on 45.2% field goal percentage, and 36.5% on 63 attempts from three. He's got a career line of 7.3 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 53.7% from the field. Length and athleticism on the defensive end, said Sean Dwyer when breaking down his film. With Sean Dwyer no longer on the staff, I believe he headed to the Phoenix Suns in their new coaching staff, so congratulations to him, and thank you for finishing this video on Josh Ola Joseph before you took off for the NBA, so yeah, congratulations to Coach Dwyer on moving up there. Watching his film, this is something I'll say this, I texted you this. He reminded me a lot of Ahir Ugwak in that he is a threat from three, but that's not really where he's going to make his hay, but he's going to get down and finish around the rim, powerful dunks, a lot of big dunks on his film. He reminded me a lot of Ahir Ugwak, which is something that Drew pointed to in his media day availability with the Field of 68. Sean Dwyer said it was similar to the things that they did with Phil Alston. That's how they were going to use him. I didn't necessarily see Phil, but Drew also said Ahir Ugwak and Phil Alston, so I guess if both of those guys are saying it, then obviously they know way more than me. I just kind of picture Phil as like a bigger body than 6'7", 215. So that's kind of where that came from for me. But it kind of feels like this is someone that we've been lacking the last couple years on this team. Obviously, a guy like Ahir Ugwak, I mean, we're talking about a program legend, effectively, in Ahir, who's out there doing big things overseas. I believe he was in Germany last I looked, but that's what college basketball is. That's what basketball is, and it's something that we kind of learned the hard way moving from the Missouri Valley into the A-10, that guys are so much more athletic, and if you can't out-physical and out-athletic guys, you're going to struggle, which they did. So I like to see a guy like this coming down from, has Big Ten and ACC experience, to Power 4 conferences, I guess Power 5 in college basketball, but I'm excited to see what Ola Joseph can do.
Yeah, same with me, and if he's got the athleticism as Ahir Ugwak, then look out, because this guy's going to put up some big-time highlights, and he's going to be shown on SportsCenter, I think, because Ahir was a guy who could just get to the rim with authority and finish with authority, so if Ola Joseph can do that, I'm very excited to watch him play. You mentioned it, played at Minnesota, spent last season at Cal. He did get injured, it looks like middle of February, and he missed the rest of the season. But he was playing some good minutes for Cal in the ACC. He had 10 points in a game at the Dean Dome against UNC, even though UNC was a tad bit down last season. Still a good game. But yeah, this is a guy who I think is going to be a big difference for us on both the offensive and defensive sides of the ball. And again, if he is as athletic as people say that he is, and from what we've seen on tape, he's going to make a big difference here for the Ramblers in 2025-26.
Yeah, no, I think there's something to be said for blending all of these like different types of players around. Obviously, you have DeWolf Tavares coming from Charleston, but then also Ola Joseph, Xavier Amos coming from Power Fours. Like, there is something to be said about these guys that have played in, like you said, the Dean Dome and performed well. Or in the case of Amos, playing at Purdue or at any of these Big Ten, state Indiana, any of these places that really pile it in. Like, I mean, like, that matters to me. That means something to me, playing in meaningful games and having that type of experience. I mean, when you're talking about Xavier Amos, who we're going to get into next, he played in the tournament. Like, the tournament experience that you're bringing in.
11 points against the Grizz in the first round.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So I guess I don't have anything else on Joshua Ola Joseph unless you do.
I don't, but again, excited to see him suit up. I'm excited to see all these guys suit up, because it's going to be nice to see some new faces out there, and I think Drew is such a good coach, then even with all the turnover, they're going to be gelling, I think, right out of the gate, which should be exciting.
Yeah, and I think part of the summer workouts is getting your, and even the exhibitions is kind of like figuring out what combinations work well for you. Something that was pointed out on that Rambler Roundtable podcast, which shout out to Sudi and CT for doing that with Coach Guth on the women's side, Drew Valentine, obviously, and then AD Steve Watson. And there was a doctor on there from Loyola Medicine. I forget her name. Let me look that up real quick. I think it was Dr. Mulcahy, but I'll confirm that here in one second. Yeah, Dr. Mulcahy. So shout out to them for doing that. But one of the things that CT noted when talking to Drew was that they're doing Saturday scrimmages with the top 7 versus the bottom 7, and obviously, the top 7, he said, were kind of anchored by the 3 that you would expect: Kamani Winsu, Miles Rubin, and Justin Moore, who I have a hot take for Justin Moore, but we'll get to that in the next episode when we do our season predictions. It's kind of all about figuring out how these rotations work, who you're going to use where, who gels together where, and that's something that we saw in the exhibition against DePaul. Part of it was because the refs couldn't swallow the whistles and decided to call like 65 fouls, I think it was. But everyone who was available touched the floor. I think Xavier Amos and Dominic Harris were 2 guys that were unavailable in that one. So unfortunately, we didn't get to see 2 newcomers who I'm pretty excited about. But it'll be interesting to see how he uses this lineup, because it feels like they really could go like 9, 10, 11 guys deep this year.
Yeah, and that's what we said last year. I mean, I think they were about 8 deep, I think, for most of the season, especially after they lost Moore. But the more you guys have at your disposal, the more fresh legs you're going to have out there, especially when those guys are talented and they can play, which is good. But yeah, just having that deep rotation, I think, is going to be big. And with all these guys coming in, I think they were all told, hey, you're going to get minutes depending on how many minutes they get. We shall see. But yeah, just having that deep rotation, I think, is going to be critical here. And I think you mentioned it with just figuring out the rotations. That's one of the biggest and most important things as a basketball coach at any level. Is figuring out who works well with one another, figuring out when you got to give this guy a break, when you got to give this guy a breather, when you got to let this guy go if he stays hot. So it's obviously very difficult, but I think we've seen Drew. He's been able to figure that out time and time again, year after year. And I'm very confident that he's going to be able to do that, and they're going to have it rocking and going here pretty early on, I think, if not that first game against Cleveland State.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. I mean, we learned just how deep that team was with all the injuries that they went through last year. I mean, it really is remarkable to have the type of season that they had with all the injuries that they had. I mean, there was not a backup point guard on that roster last year. When Justin Moore went down, it was full scramble mode on like, oh shit, who is going to play point guard for this team? And Kamani Winsu did an admirable job once he got his feet under him in that role, but he's not a point guard. And I'm excited to see him in a role that suits his skill set better. And not to say that he can't, but I mean, there's going to be plenty of guys now on this roster, whether it be Daywalk Tavares or Cade Dotson, that can spell Justin Moore here. I mean, God forbid he goes down again, knock on wood. But if he needs a breather or anything like that, I mean, he played so many minutes in that exhibition that I feel like that's going to be what we're going to see. But yeah, we learned just how deep this team can get. So having depth is never a bad thing. But let's dive into Xavier Amos here. Chicago's own transfer from Wisconsin by way of Northern Illinois. He's a senior forward, 6'8", 225. He averaged 3.5 points per game, 1.8 rebounds per game in a bench role for the Badgers. But in 2023-24, when he was at Northern Illinois, he averaged 13.8 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, 1.2 assists in 30 minutes. 38.5 3-point percentage on 104 attempts. Obviously, it's a guy that was in a bench role for Wisconsin last year. I feel like this is something where a lot of guys kind of like, obviously you make the jump Northern Illinois to Wisconsin, then you don't really get the role that you're looking for because you're jumping up to a school like that. Maybe his role was overpromised. I mean, who knows how? I've never been in a conversation with someone in the portal, so who knows? Yeah. Any number of things could go wrong there. I mean, we saw it with Jalen DeLoach last year, so obviously he jumped from VCU to Georgia back down to Loyola. So hopefully he can kind of recapture some of that Northern Illinois magic that he had going on, and I feel like he's a good option to do that. Another big body down low, much like so many of or all of the guys we've already talked about. The Blur's breakdown in some of his film highlighted a lot of offensive tendencies that we've grown accustomed to. Ball screens, creating shots for your guards, using those ball screens to get yourself open, things like that. So I'm excited to see Xavier Amos come up a level from where he was at Northern Illinois, but then maybe come in and play more of an impactful role than he was able to play for the Badgers.
Yeah, I certainly think he'll have much more of a role here this season with Loyola because he didn't play too much. He did get some garbage time. I remember watching a little of that game. I don't remember him exactly, but like I mentioned he did get score 11 points in that first round game against Montana in 13 minutes. But yeah, you said a lot of big guys that we've talked about here, and obviously the headliner, the superstar of that front court is going to be Miles Rubin, but you had guys like Xavier Amos, like Joshua Ola-Joseph, and I know we're going to get into a couple other guys here, but just having size and length down there to rim protect, to rebound, because I know there were a lot of games last year when we had trouble rebounding the basketball, and that led to a handful of losses, so being able to be tough and physical down low and not only protect the rim when guys are driving to the basket, but be able to rebound and just do the simple mechanics that you're taught when you're playing Parks and Rec basketball in elementary school. So having those big bodies and physical guys down low is going to be big. I know he was great for Northern Illinois, and you mentioned it just wasn't as great with Wisconsin, but Wisconsin, I believe they were a 3 seed last year. They got a lot of talent, so it's hard to break into the rotation if you're not one of those top level guys. So I think him moving down here to Loyola, I think he's going to find a lot of success, much like Jalen DeLoach found last year.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things that Drew, again, in the last couple of days, I listened to so much preseason stuff, so it kind of all blends together. But one of the things that Drew mentioned was that they felt like they got killed on the offensive glass a lot of times. And it's true, they did. I mean, how
games,
many?
yeah.
There were so many games where you mentioned it, they just couldn't rebound and they lost because of it. I mean, you just can't give, like in the A10, there are so many good teams. I mean, they came in at 5th in the preseason poll, and it's like, all right, well, I could see any one of these 5 teams legitimately competing for a tournament berth, competing for the A10 title, like, and even beyond the top 5. Like, there's so many good teams here, and you just can't give these teams second, third, fourth opportunities to put points on the board. They're too good to do that.
Yeah, when you do that and you just let a team continuously get the ball until they put it in the basket, that's a good recipe to lose a lot of basketball games. So being able to protect the boards and not allow offensive board after offensive board and win those battles down low is going to be big, especially in some of these non-conference games that we're going to touch on here in a little bit, and especially when you get to A10 play, because we know there's a lot of physicality in the Atlantic 10 conference, which I love. It's a great conference, and you're going to have to be able to do that night in and night out, so all season long.
Yeah, let's stick with, I know in our notes he's a couple guys down, but let's stick with the big guys here. College basketball is so weird nowadays. This was going to be in my closing thoughts, but Louisville just signed a guy that has played 2 seasons in the G League. There are plenty of guys that have played professionally in Europe and are now coming over. Obviously, Jacob Patrick was a guy that was committed to Loyola for, I think it was like 2 weeks in the offseason before decommitting, which is something that VCU fans are very familiar with Jacob Patrick. I'm not going to fucking crap on the guy too much, but I don't know why any other school would be like, hey, you want to come play for us now that he's committed to and decommitted to 2 separate teams. But this is a guy who's played professionally over the last 2 seasons in Germany, in Alex Richardson. He's 22 years old, a senior by class, 6'9", 240-pound center. Like I said, he spent the last 2 seasons playing in Germany, where he averaged 10.6 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game. One of the things that the Blurs breakdown highlighted was this is a big guy, obviously. 6'9", 240, a lot of muscle. Something that was highlighted in the exhibition was for a guy playing in his first season, like you can tell that he's a little bit more of a grown man than everyone else on the floor there. But Miles Rubin isn't 6'9", 240. Like, this is going to be a pretty big physicality jump when you're coming in. Like, talk about getting two different looks out of the center position between, like, athletic, kind of a little bit lanky Miles Rubin compared to 6'9", like, I'm bigger than you, try and stop me, Alex Richardson. So, I think there is something to be said. Like I said, it's weird that they're bringing guys in that have played professionally. It's weird that Louisville's bringing in a guy that's been playing in the G League for the last 2 years. Like, does Lucas Williamson have any other eligibility remaining that we don't know about? He's been playing in the G League.
Cam Krutwig?
Yeah. Can we bring any of these guys back? But it's interesting that it brings a veteran presence who's been there in a professional locker room and played with pros. Like, I think that is a very underrated aspect to bringing in a guy like Alex Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, you play professional. Obviously, college basketball is pretty much professional now because guys are getting paid, which they should. But guys are getting paid, and you can move around. So. But it's definitely different playing professional basketball. It's not like you're going to school. So he's been doing that, and I totally agree. It's going to be he should be a huge, big presence in the locker room where guys can kind of look at him and see like how a professional acts, I guess, because he's been there and he's done that. And just the second part of that you mentioned, he's a big guy, obviously. Standing at 6'9", 240 pounds. I remember there were 2 games in particular last year. I'm blanking on the one guy's name, but it was in that game against Oakland in the Diamond Head where we just didn't have like a big guy down low to be like go one-on-one physicality-wise with that guy. And then the other guy who he transferred, thankfully, he's no longer in the A-10. He transferred from George Mason to Cincinnati, but Jalen Haynes. I remember that game that we played in Fairfax against George Mason where it was just a rock fight and he would get the ball down low and he could kind of do whatever he wants. So I think just when you have those big physical centers down low who have a lot of weight and have a lot of size, Alexander Richardson is going to be a guy who you can put on him and I think go toe-to-toe with guys like that, which we saw last year that cost us a couple of games. So having a guy like that could be a big difference.
Yeah, and I think, again, I think J.J. Deloach did a great job last year spelling Miles Rubin in times, but I think having a big physical guy, I mean, and Deloach was that for a lot. Like, he wasn't afraid of anyone. He was willing to chest up anyone. But I think having a big physical guy like that, especially because of the foul trouble that we've seen Miles Rubin get in, I mean, when you're such a prolific shot blocker like Rubin is, like, you're bound to get called for fouls, but it's one of those things where he's going to get into foul trouble in some games, and if you don't have a good enough backup center to come in, if he's got 4 fouls, he's got to go out there and play with 4 fouls. Like, I think having this many big guys that can potentially spell him, like, and as we learned in the exhibition game, like, yes, I think it's ridiculous that 60 whatever fouls were called in an exhibition game. It ruins the quality, and I'll get into my rant about the DePaul fans that were acting like they won the national championship because they beat Loyola, and it's not their fault that their administration is afraid to play a regular season game against them. It's not. I'm sure those fans are clamoring for the same thing that they were talking about on the broadcast, something that I've been beating the drum of for years in a Chicago style or in a Chicago tournament of all the schools, but yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure there were plenty of fouls that were called on both sides. We've seen this team get into foul trouble before. So, to have this many big guys, like I said, it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, and Miles Rubin, he did a much better job last season staying out of foul trouble compared to his freshman campaign, which was good, but he still has been known to get into foul trouble, and when he needs to be spelled, there's multiple guys on the bench that are going to be able to go out there and do that. So that's a good thing. And just to follow off your foul calling from the exhibition game, it's like an NBA game, and who wants to watch that? So,
right. Yeah, 50. I think DePaul shot over 50 free throws in that one.
Yeah, it's just
which
boring.
Is like, exactly. And that was my whole point. Like, someone at a DePaul fan tried to chirp me and was like, "I can't believe you're complaining about fouls in an exhibition game." It's like, I don't care about the wins and losses. They lost. Guess what? The record's still 0-0 on the year. Like, tough shit. They lost. The quality of the product was worse because of the officiating. Like, that's the big thing there. Like, and credit to the Rambler Sportnet guys, CT and Sudi, of course, who powered through it. Like, I mean, they were. I talked about it so much last year. I missed CT calling games. He's so funny listening to him call. Like, he cares about like, at one point he was standing up. He was like, "Oh, I gotta remember that I'm on media row. I can't stand up during the games." Like, like, this was an exhibition game, and he was in mid-season form. So I love that. I love a guy that's just gonna be like yelling. Like, the BC hockey broadcasts, their color guy Andy Powers is similar to CT. He was a defenseman on BC, and he yells and cheers when they score. Like, sometimes we don't do those games on delay. Sometimes it's like he's gonna swear, and it's like, oh shit, what are we gonna do if this guy swears? Yes. But yeah, I absolutely love that out of CT. So shout out to them. Those guys are great. They do great work, and
they are.
For whatever reason, DePaul couldn't get their shit together with a broadcast, and they stepped up and said, "We'll do it live. We'll do it." And they said it. There were two ways you could listen to that exhibition game: the Rambler Sports Network or DePaul Student Radio. So shout out to them for stepping up and saving us from having to listen to DePaul Student Radio, who I'm sure do a great job, but I don't want to listen to a DePaul broadcast.
Yep, no, I wouldn't either, and again, good for those the students. I know we were doing that a little bit back in Randy's class. Shout out to Professor Minkoff at Loyola, but yeah, those two guys are awesome, and can't wait to listen to them all season.
Yeah, let's keep rolling on with these new additions to the Ramblers. We covered the front court. Now let's head into the back court. This is a guy who I think is going to determine how far this team can go, and that will be Dominic Harris. He's a grad transfer from guard, obviously, from UCLA via Loyola Marymount via Gonzaga. So, fourth stop here for this grad transfer, 6'3", 190. By far, his best season came at LMU, where he averaged 14.3 points per game on 44.8% from three. He played just 11 games last year for UCLA. Another guy coming in that you're looking to replace Sheldon Edwards' production from three. If he can recapture what he was able to do at LMU, feels like, look out. Like, I mean, this is a guy that, like you said, he's done it all. He's played at Gonzaga. He's played at UCLA. Obviously, he thrived in the WCC at Loyola Marymount. Like, this is a guy that I'm excited for.
Yeah, 44.8% at LMU, not last season, but the season before that. For the Lions, that's, if he can shoot like that, look out. If he and DeWitt Tavares can both shoot like that from three, you got two guys out there where you can just kick it out, and if they're even somewhat wide open, that would be absolutely huge, because the three ball, much like the NBA, is becoming more and more of a factor in the college game, especially with how much better these guys are getting, how much more time they're spending shooting threes. So being able to do that is going to be huge, and obviously we're losing a lot of production from Sheldon Edwards, 106 last season. But yeah, Dominic Harris, he's done it all on the West Coast. Now he's coming out to the Midwest. And UCLA and Gonzaga, those are two premier programs in college basketball. LMU, they're no slouch. They're definitely not one of the best teams in the country, but they're usually right around the middle of the pack in the WCC, which is a very formidable conference. So he was playing against good competition 2 seasons ago, and he was putting up numbers, and I think he's going to be able to do the same thing here with Loyola, because the competition, I think, of the WCC, obviously, if you don't count Gonzaga and St. Mary's, and I guess San Francisco too, but I think it's a little down compared to the Atlantic 10 when you subtract those 3 teams, but it's still a very good conference, and I think he's going to be able to show what he's made of here once again in his final collegiate season with Loyola.
Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned Sheldon Edwards a couple times here and trying to replace that production, but Jaden Dawson was their best player. Well, I guess it would be a toss-up between him and Miles, but I mean, you're talking about losing. Yeah, you're talking about losing a guy who was a major, major part of your offense. And Dawson, I mean, obviously he wound up at Kansas. You don't just wind up at Kansas without having an incredible season. And like you said, I don't begrudge any player for going to a school like Kansas. I mean, obviously, like you said, we're talking about the creme de la creme of college basketball, Bill Self, that atmosphere, etc. But also, I don't begrudge anyone for going and getting a bag. Like the schools are making bags off of them. We're talking about a multi-million-dollar industry that is college athletics, college basketball, however you want to narrow it down. So I will never, and you don't know what the future holds for these kids. So for them to go out and make their money, make their hay while the sun is shining, I will never begrudge that. Before players were officially on the record getting paid, I was the number one advocate that these guys should be making money. So yeah, I'll never begrudge that. But it's a major loss for Loyola. There's no other way to put it. And Drew said it this was with the Field of 68. This is the best 3-point shooting team that he's had at Loyola since his first year here, which would have been 21, 22?
When he was the head coach, I believe it was. 21, 22. Yeah,
because Porter left after. Yeah. So this is the best 3-point shooting team he's had since then, which I think really says something. And like you said, guys that can get open on the wing, there's so much ball movement, so many screens. I mean, we've watched this offense for however many years in a row now. How many times was there so much action moving inside to the paint that it was just, Sheldon Edwards is wide open for 3 on the perimeter. To have not just one or two guys out there potentially at a time that can make an open 3, I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah, having multiple guys out there, like we said, it's just you can kick it out to either one of them. Not both, probably. At least one of them is going to be somewhat open. If you got guys who can take it to the basket and create noise on a consistent basis, you kick it out to either one of those guys or anybody else on this team. Who I think we're going to have a lot of guys who can make 3-pointers, with Drew saying that it's the best 3-point shooting team he's had because he's had a lot of great shooters come through that door and play for him. So that's really saying something. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of open looks, I think, with just how many talented guys they have on this roster from the perimeter and inside.
Yeah, so I don't have anything else on Dominic Harris if you want to keep it moving with Cade Dotson.
Sounds good to me.
Alrighty, Cade Dotson is a sophomore guard, 6'1", 190 pounds, transfer from New Mexico, who in his freshman season averaged 2.3 points per game on 41.7% from 336 attempts. He scored 18 points on Texas A&M Corpus Christi. A note from the exhibition broadcast. Obviously, he transferred in from New Mexico, where he was behind Donovan Dent, who is one of my favorite players in college basketball. Obviously, everyone, if you are a college basketball, I was gonna say loser, but I'll go with junkie instead, as to not make fun of ourselves too much.
I'd say that's what we are for sure.
Yes,
junkies.
Yeah. So. Obviously, Dent's one of the best point guards in college basketball, one of the best players in college basketball, now at UCLA, which, the dirty, filthy, disgusting things I would have done to have him wearing maroon and gold. Obviously, that's a guy that's probably out of the price range of Loyola, as he ends up at UCLA. But, a note from the broadcast, New Mexico fans were disappointed to see Cade Dotson leave because he was the next guy up in terms of Donovan Dent. And it seems like he's going to be a little bit more of a project than I would like to think, based on the way that Drew was talking about him. And, obviously, when you have a bulldog point guard, Drew Valentine called Justin Moore the best point guard in the A-10 multiple times throughout all these different media appearances that he's done in the preseason. So when you have a guy who can play the bulk of those roles, you can afford to have a guy like Cade Dotson, play lower amount of minutes, not a limited number of minutes per game and spelling, but it's also a great, all right, here's how we do things around here, especially in terms of running the offense. This is not a easy offense to learn. This is not an easy offense to run. So the fact that he is a veteran guy that is, and like I said, I have a hot Justin Moore take coming up, but have a guy like Justin Moore that can say, here's how we do it, this is what we expect from you running the offense, and here's how to do it. Like, I'm excited to see what Cade Dotson can do.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. The fact that New Mexico fans were disappointed to see him walk out the door really says something. Because Donovan Dent, he's been great, and watching him play, especially on those Friday night, late night Mountain West games, and he just puts on a show. He was really something to watch, and I think UCLA obviously got a superstar there, and it would have been great for us to get him, but again, out of our price range. So I think if we're going to get a guy from New Mexico, Cade Dotson is a great guy to get. He's a true sophomore. He's young. So, like you said, it might be a little more of a project than some of these other guys who come with either 1 or 2 years left, ready to rock and roll, and are already ready-made. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what he can do, and I think he's going to be one of those guys who you don't see as much at the beginning of the season, but as the season progresses, he's going to start to see more and more minutes and become a regular rotational player once we hit February and March, which I'm excited to see his development, because he is a young guy, but he's got a ton of talent, and I think it's a great addition for Drew, because if he can have him play and develop, and we know Drew's great at developing talent. We've seen it with so many guys walk through that door and what they've started at and what they've become. If he can hold on to him and not let him go to the portal, I think this is going to be a guy who maybe not so much this season, but down the road could be a superstar for us.
Yeah, and it's something that we mentioned earlier in the episode when talking about Dewalt Tavares, and they didn't have a backup point guard last year. This is a backup point guard. This is what we've been looking for. This is what we were looking for last year. Like you said, it may be more of a project, and I think you make a great point there that it might not be someone that we see a whole lot at the beginning of the season as he gets comfortable in the offense, gets comfortable with the team, and develops a little bit more. But like you said, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is a guy that come February, March, and hopefully we're playing into April, a guy that makes a big impact.
Yep, I think not hopefully. I think the goal is, and I think we will be playing in April. That's the way I'm thinking
Yes.
here. So yeah, February, March, and I didn't mention April, but April as well. You'll see more of him, I think, as he gets his legs under him, learning the new system, especially as a young guy, and just progresses as a player. And Drew can kind of mold him into what they want him to be, and I think the talent is there, so it should work out pretty well.
Yes, yeah. So that does it for the transfers that the Ramblers are bringing in. There are 2 freshmen. I don't have too much on them just because it's kind of hard to get notes from freshman guys that were playing in high school. So we'll start with a guy that it feels like we've been hearing about for a while. I don't know exactly when he committed, but I feel like we've been hearing about Chuck Love for quite a while here. 4-star recruit from Nebraska, 6'7", 195 pounds at the guard position. Coming from the Blurs, breakdown shooting is one of his biggest strengths at his size. They showed a lot of shots of him getting over, closing out defenders to get his shot off. A note from the exhibition, he dove on the floor for a loose ball, which prompted CT to talk about Drew saying that he wants to see guys go out and earn it, and Love hitting the deck, being in an exhibition game, being a key component of that, going out, making an impact. I don't think we've really ever seen a freshman come in and immediately make an impact, but at 6'7", I mean, obviously 195, over the course of 4 years, you expect him to kind of put some muscle onto that big frame. I feel like Love is a guy that we could see make an impact this year.
Yeah, I mean, last year I know we were very excited about Glaskov, Daniil Glaskov, and I'm forgetting the other guy's name who transferred. And Dowie.
And Dowie, yes, yeah.
So we didn't see them too much, but I don't think they're the prospect that Chuck Love is coming out of high school. I mean, he's a 4-star guy. Obviously, he's got a ton of size, and I mean, 6'7", being that lengthy as a guard in college, I think is a huge advantage, because you're going to be able to be a lot taller than a lot of these other guards that you're being defended by on opposing teams, and you're going to be able to get shots up more easily. So I don't remember a guy with 4 stars coming in. I'm sure we've had that in the past, but that just kind of goes to show what this program is building up towards. You're getting guys with 4 stars next to their name that want to come and play for Loyola. And while we didn't see the freshman impact last year from those 2 guys, I think this guy has enough talent, and he's got enough size and enough physicality. I mean, he's got all the tools. So I think if it's the best players are going to play, and I think he has a chance to be one of the better players on this team, and I think he's going to see a lot more minutes than a lot of other freshmen have seen in the past seasons.
Yeah, and then the other freshman coming in is Nick Anderson. He's a 6'4 guard coming in at 180 pounds, a 3-star out of Kansas. He's young for his age, super athletic. I didn't have too much on him because I kind of think that he's a guy that they look to redshirt as he matures a little more, coming in as a young freshman. So like I said, it's hard to kind of dive in too much to these guys that are freshmen, 17, 18 years old, and be like, oh, well, here they are playing AAU ball. I said it. We're college basketball junkies. We're not diving into the weeds like that on AAU tape or anything like that. So yeah, I don't have too much on Nick Anderson unless you do.
Yeah, no, I don't have too much either. But again, yeah, maybe a guy they redshirt if he's not seeing the minutes that they're expecting, or maybe not expecting, but if he's not seeing the minutes. Could be a guy they redshirt, but yeah, excited to see what he does. 3-star guy, so I know those stars oftentimes they can be pretty off, or they can. It just kind of depends, but it's always nice to see more stars than not, I guess. So we'll see what happens. I'm not sure how much he's going to play, but again, Drew, I think if he sticks around, he's going to develop and turn into a good player for us down the road.
Yep, so that'll do it for the newcomers on the 2025-2026 Ramblers roster. Now let's dive into, we're going to do the first half of the non-con schedule tonight, so that's the first, 6 games?
6 games, yep.
Yep, 6 games, obviously kicking things off against Cleveland State next Tuesday? Next Monday against Cleveland State. What do you have on the Vikings?
Oh, the Vikings, they've been very solid over the last half-decade, winning the Horizon League and going dancing in 2021. They won the Horizon League regular season titles in 2021 and 2022. Last year, they finished 23-13, 14-6 in conference play, which was second best in the Horizon League last season. So they're coming off another good year. But they do bring in a new coach in Rob Summers as Daniel Robinson. He left for a better job in the American with the Mean Green, and we're going to talk about them here shortly. But he's headed to North Texas. He did a really nice job at Cleveland State, turning them into a perennial contender in the Horizon League. They bring back 0 guys who played minutes last year. They don't bring back a single guy who played for a minute for them last year. So this is a new team. And we'll see how much they're gelling. We'll see what kind of talent they were able to bring in here. But again, I think this is a game where you go out opening night, the crowd should be big, the fans should be excited, ready to go, and I think the players are going to be ready to go, and this should be a game I think we win by 20-plus points.
Yeah, Cleveland State comes into this season ranking 254 in the season opening KenPom. So like you said, not a team that... Obviously, they've had the success in the past, but not returning a single minute is it's a big blow for a team like Cleveland State. I mean, we'll see what type of talent they're able to recruit, and I know that some people might be saying, oh, well, you guys bitched about the non-con schedule nonstop last year, and it's something that we did. But you need to play these teams. Drew said it in the Rambler Roundtable season preview that there's going to be 4 to 5 bye games. You want to play some mid to high major conferences. There is a schedule building aspect to this. They do need to play bye games. They have to. And this is a good soft landing spot to come into the season before you get really into the meat and potatoes. And I mean, we're going to talk about it. The 3-game stretch starting in Game 3 with North Texas, Wichita State, and then Colorado State. And then, of course, later in the season, they have a 2-game stretch against San Francisco and Santa Clara. There is no room as a team in the A-10 or any mid-major. If you want, there is no room for hiccups. It has to come out and it has to gel pretty much immediately if you want to have at-large hopes. So to come out and be able to get your shit together, for lack of a better term, two teams like Cleveland State and then Mercyhurst, who they play on the 6th, it's important.
Yeah, and I think last year we were saying, well, they played San Francisco, and I believe that was pretty much it in terms of real games they played, and the rest were bye games. I mean, yeah, definitely sprinkle in a few bye games here, and don't have John Rothstein do the so-and-so, Loyola loses a bye game to so-and-so, the epitome of brutality. You don't want that to happen. You got to take care of business in these games, which I think they'll be able to here starting off a week from Monday night at Gentile against Cleveland State.
Yeah, do we want to get into that Mercyhurst game now?
Yep, the Dolphins.
Interesting, the Dolphins, huh? I kind of like that for a basketball team, the Dolphins. They're like, Lemoyne.
Oh, you know what? They're not the Dolphins. They're the Lakers.
Oh.
Okay,
I'll do it.
Yeah. Lemoyne's the Dolphins.
Not to be confused with Lemoyne.
Yeah, well, they both came into Division I last season, so yeah. The Lemoyne's the Dolphins, and then Mercyhurst, the team we're playing, they're the Lakers, I would guess, named after the Los Angeles Lakers, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
We can only assume.
Yeah.
Alrighty, what do you got on the Lakers?
Well, they hail out of the NEC, and this is going to be only their second season in Division I. They made the jump from D2 to D1 last year, and they actually had a pretty good season. They finished the overall record was under 500 by a game, but they did finish in third place in the NEC with a 9-7 record in conference play. They have a long-tenured coach, Gary Menchel, who's entering his 23rd season there for the Lakers, and they do have a couple guys returning. Bernie Blunt III. It's a great name.
That is an unreal name.
Bernie Blunt III. That's a guy we're gonna have to. That's a guy we're gonna have to watch out for in our matchup with them.
That is awesome. That is an all-time name. Bernie Blunt III. Fuck yeah.
But he was third on the team in points per game, averaged 12.5 last year. Another guy who's coming back, Jake Lemelman. He was fifth in the team last season, averaged 5.4 points per game. But again, this is another far inferior opponent that Loyola should handle fairly easy. Again, I would expect the spread here in this one to be close to 20.
Yeah, definitely. This is another team coming in the bottom third. They're in the bottom 6 of the KenPom, no, more than 6. I can't do math. There's a running segment on the Enter and Kenmore podcast, Zach versus Math. We're doing one right here too. This is Zach versus Math. They're 2, 4, bottom 7. In the KenPom, coming in at 359, like you said, in the net. It's actually almost all neck teams back here. It's 358 Wagner, then Mercyhurst, New Haven, then there's Maryland Eastern Shore, which is in the MEAC, of course, and then Chicago State at 362. So, tough sled in there in the neck with 4 of your however many teams.
Yeah, I think that's the worst out of the. I think there's 32 conferences right now without the Pac-12 not going back into action until next season. I would think the NEC is 32nd on the list there. They do not have a very good list of teams. I believe Farley Dickinson hails from the NEC, and they obviously beat Purdue the 16-1, only the second time that's ever happened in the 2023 tournament. But aside from that, NEC, not a great league overall. Definitely towards the bottom or at the bottom.
It was the Farley Dickinson coach, or former Farley Dickinson coach, that I think Tobin Anderson, right, that went to Iona and then got completely railroaded. Yeah. I think we talked about that in one of the episodes last season. Yeah, I wonder where he landed. Let's take a look, see if he landed anywhere.
Because didn't give him any time, and you can't expect him to be Rick Pitino. Rick Pitino's Rick Pitino, and Tobin Anderson. No, he's a great basketball coach, but he's not Rick Pitino, so.
No, and I think I feel like there was some funny business there where, the donors wanted, a specific coach to come in, it was someone who was on, the Orlando Magic coaching staff or something like that.
Okay.
So it was he just got completely shafted on
it looks like he's special assistant for, South Florida team we played last year.
Yep, so shout out Tobin Anderson. Justice for Tobin Anderson. You have an ally in the Ramble On podcast.
You do,
But like you said, and like we said when talking about Cleveland State, like these are teams that you just need to go. You need to figure out your rotations. You need to figure out who works well together, and just take care of business and get ready for a real tough stretch coming up, starting on November 9th in a neutral site game against North Texas, which is going to be played in Hoffman Estates. So what do you got on the Mean Green, who might as well be the Cleveland State Vikings?
Yep, the Mean Green. Yeah, we just talked about Cleveland State, and their coach from last year headed over to, I believe North Texas is in Denton, Texas.
Yes,
so
yep.
He is the new coach there. They won the Conference USA in 2021. They're in the American now, obviously. And in 2021, they made it all the way to the round of 32. And Daniel Robinson, the aforementioned former Cleveland State coach, is that new head coach here.
Former Loyola assistant as well.
Yep, that's right. So, yeah, he's there, and he brought over 4 guys because this team did get ravaged in the portal because they lost their last head coach. I believe he went to West Virginia. He was only there for a couple years, and he went to West Virginia. But they do bring in Cole Franklin, Dylan Arnett, Jay Sean Stevenson, and Reese Robinson, all coming over from Cleveland State. And again, this is another team that had 0 minutes, or has 0 minutes returning from last season's team. So a completely new roster. And again, I don't think they're going to be as good as they have been in the past. They've made the NIT 3 out of the last 4 seasons, including winning it in 2022. So this is a team that's had a lot of success not only in the regular season but in the postseason. They finished second in the American, only behind Memphis at 27-9, 14-4 in conference. So they did lose a lot of talent, or pretty much all their talent, but they're bringing in some new talent. And again, it's going to be interesting to see how well they're gelling in just about 2 weeks, because that game is on the 9th of November.
Yeah, interesting note from that season preview podcast. Again, I feel like I keep referencing that, but this game came together kind of pretty quickly, and it started with Sean Dwyer calling around when they got their pairings for the Acrisure Invitational, or whatever they're calling it, which, like, overall, it's a pretty strong slate of teams, but it kind of feels like Loyola got the short end of it there. Like, obviously, the first game is against Northern Iowa, who's no slouch, but then the other side of the group that they're in is San Jose State and, who was the other one?
San Jose State, maybe the worst court in college basketball with the blue.
San Jose State and Tulsa.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously not ideal. Some of the other teams that are involved in it are Colorado, San Francisco, who you're already going to see, Washington, Nevada, Minnesota, Stanford. Like I said, it's a pretty solid group of teams, and it just kind of feels like they got placed in the worst group that they possibly could have. So they were, the way Drew explained it is, they were kind of looking at their schedule saying, okay, we're a little bit light here. Like, we need some, which I love. Like I said, we talked ad nauseum about how bad the strength of schedule was last year. So for them to identify their schedule as being a little bit on the lighter side and saying, okay, where can we go to find something here? And they kind of got into the, like, nerdy net metrics of it, of like, okay, like, we identified North Texas. D-Rob is a guy who we have familiarity with because he was on the staff when Christian Thomas was playing. He was saying that he was gonna take up the mantle of talking shit to D-Rob because Drew didn't want to give him any bulletin board material, which I love. But then they knew that they wanted to play a home game at a neutral site game. It was actually really interesting because it's something that I've bitched about, being like, why are we playing at the Chase Center when it's 20 minutes away from San Francisco? Or why are we playing ridiculous. Why are we playing in Santa Cruz against Santa Clara? Same thing can be said last year. Why are we playing in Milwaukee against San Francisco? And it's effectively to help boost the net rankings for the home team. So they wanted to get the bump from playing a neutral site game. So they effectively landed on Hoffman Estates. Like, unfortunately, that's just the landscape of college basketball. Like you said, it's stupid. Like, the net needs to be adjusted because it's something that the Illinois State head coach talked about the other day. I don't know if you saw that clip that went viral on college basketball Twitter, but essentially he was like, we call all these teams and they won't play us. Like, they just won't. It benefits them so much more to play all these quad 4 teams and beat the brakes off them than it does to play a team like Illinois State, to play a team like Loyola. I mean, it's a problem that's been happening for mid-majors for years, and it's not gonna change until the NCAA says, okay, like something needs to change. And Charlie Baker, who I'm very familiar with as the former governor of Massachusetts, is a clown and wants to expand the tournament because he quote feels bad for the teams that didn't get in. Like, okay, like sure, like feel bad for the teams that don't get in. Yeah, want to play better, but it's not gonna change. Like, okay, so like I feel bad for the teams that aren't gonna like that didn't get in. Yes, sure, feel bad, but an expanded tournament isn't going to be like, oh, well, Loyola gets in now, or St. Louis gets in now. It's going to be like, oh, 5 games under 500 South Carolina team gets an at-large bid, or something like that. It's only going to continue to benefit the Power 4, Power 5, until something in the rankings changes. Like, I'm way too stupid to know how the algorithms work in the net and all that stuff, but something has to change in the algorithms, because it's so ridiculous, and it goes back to what we talked about in the exhibition game. It's a worse college basketball product if you're tuning in on a Wednesday night and Villanova's beating the dog shit out of Mercyhurst. Yeah. Like no one's tuning in for that game. No one wants to watch that. So if you want a better regular season product, then something needs to change there. And also it's unfair to schools like Loyola who bust their ass, and then, or even everyone in the A10. Like, the A10 has the talent to be a multi-bid league every year, but they just can't be because they struggle so much to schedule. I mean, VCU and Dayton, that's who schedules big-time opponents. Like, that's it. Other than that, like, it's tough sledding.
Yeah, a lot of these schools, just because of the net, and it's like, well, we're not going to get as much credit because you guys are this, even though they know, like the Illinois State coach said, they know that that's going to be a much tougher game than would be anticipated, and then playing, some bottom feeder team in the Quad 4. So that's why they just schedule those instead of playing teams like Illinois State, teams like Loyola, teams like Bradley, teams like Drake, all these teams. There's a million of them that you can list off that teams don't want to play just because it's going to be a hard matchup and they're afraid they might lose, which sucks because that should be the opposite. You should want to schedule as many tough games as you can, and you shouldn't be afraid of losing these games. You go out and you battle and you lose, then it's a tough loss, but it's so early on in the season, and you can learn from that, and you can, there's so many other things that can happen. So it is a disappointing thing to see these coaches not want to schedule those games, but that's just the way it is, I guess, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's not even necessarily fear of losing. Like, I do think that's part of it. Like, obviously, if you lose, that's going to hurt your net. But even, winning by 4 in a Quad 2 or a Quad 3 doesn't benefit you as much in the net or any of these rankings as much as, like we said, winning by 40 against Lemoyne or something like that. It's just, it's unfortunately the state of college basketball, and expanding the tournament isn't going to fix that. So, fuck you, Charlie Baker. That's besides the point, but yeah, so not to get off on too much of a tangent here, but I guess it started with the story about how this game came together, which I thought was pretty interesting against North Texas, but I don't have too much else on the Mean Green, if you don't either.
Yep. Again, I think this is a game that it's at home, and I think it's a game that we should win. So, and it would look good on the resume. And if you want to be an at-large team at the end of the season, or have any chance of being an at-large team, this is a game you got to win.
Yeah, just for reference, North Texas is at 88 in the initial Ken Palm of the season. Loyola, I guess we should have led with this. Loyola came in at 99.
Okay.
So, so a team that I guess technically Ken Palm is expecting to be better than you. We'll see whether or not that comes to fruition. I mean, this is two teams. Obviously, Loyola is not returning 0 minutes, losing key pieces, whether it be via transfer or graduation. So, big litmus test here, really, for both these teams to see kind of where you are, where you stand, and also bolster both resumes.
Yep, early on in the season too. So I like it, and it's a big matchup. I'm glad they scheduled it.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for us, like I said, we talked ad nauseum about the schedule last year. So to see a more formidable schedule this year is a great thing. So hopefully they can keep that trend alive. Next one up, former Valley member, former Valley rivalry, traveling to Wichita State in the first leg of a home and home. I believe the second leg will be at Gentile next year. But what do you got on Wichita? The Shockers.
Well, you mentioned it. The Shockers, former former opponent in the Missouri Valley before they left, obviously a good amount before us, to the American. And they've come down a lot in the last decade or so since Greg Marshall's departure.
The days of Ron Baker, three-point maker.
Yep, Ron Baker. Yeah, he had the shaggy haircut with the blonde hair, and he played for the Knicks. And then they had a couple of obviously Fred VanVleet. I think he's out for the season, which is unfortunate. But man, he's turned into one hell of a player in the NBA, and he's made a lot of money. And he was a big part of those teams back in the day. So they aren't that certainly now, but this is still going to be a good test on the road. They went 19-15 last year, 8-10 in conference play. Only returners who played last season are Joy Ighoja, probably screwing that name up, sorry Joy, and Henry Thengval, who combined for an average of 8.7 points per game last season. And they got some nice transfers, but the big prize in the portal for the Shockers was point guard Kenyon Giles, who averaged 15.3 points per game for the Spartans of University of North Carolina, Greensboro. So that's a big get, and they are also bringing over Karen Boyd from East Tennessee State, the Buccaneers, who averaged 8.7 points per game. But again, this should be a really good matchup. You're going to Wichita, so that definitely adds an additional element. This is the first road game that they're going to play, and it should be a great game. I think this is going to be, you said it, it's North Texas, then Wichita, and then right after this one, you're going to back home to play Colorado State. So 3 very tough and 3 very good matchups in a row here, which I'm really looking forward to. And Wichita State, even though they aren't the number 1 seed that they were about a decade ago, this is still a team that I think is kind of on the rise here, and they're moving in the right direction, and they're definitely a very formidable opponent, and it should be a very tough game headed up to Wichita to play this one.
Yeah, they're 128 right now in the Ken Palm. 122nd offensive rating, 150th defensive rating. I mean, I don't know how much stock to put into that type of stuff, just because we haven't seen them on the floor yet. We haven't seen them meshing, and we don't know how Loyola is going to look like. Yeah. Just again as a point of reference,
it's all a guessing game.
We Loyola's set at 107th offensive rating and 96th defensive rating. So we'll see how things shake out. But I don't know how much stock to put into Ken Palm and any of these advanced analytics when we haven't seen these teams on the floor. But like you said, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of your, or I guess like I said, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of your non-con schedule here with these 3 games. Then the next one, like you said, against Colorado State, and then those 2 games in California. That's, to me, that's going to make or break your non-con schedule. You can, like I said, you can afford to maybe slip up and lose one of these games. I would say maybe the Wichita one, or San Francisco and Santa Clara are 2 that you could probably afford to have be losses and not completely crush your at-large hopes. But these are games, they matter, and they matter pretty much immediately. I mean, we're talking about North Texas is your 3rd game, Wichita's your 4th game, and Colorado State's your 5th game. It's a great litmus test to see where you are, but it's also we're here, we're an at-large caliber team.
Yep, these games are all taking place within the next month. That game against the game against North Texas is about 2.5 weeks away. So, I mean, it's coming up, and we've got some big games on the horizon coming up here very quickly, and I'm very excited about that because you'd rather watch these teams like Loyola play formidable opponents, and we didn't really get that last year until I think December. So, minus the Princeton game, but aside from that, you didn't really see any of that until December. So, it's nice to kind of get out of the gates early and have some excitement early on.
Yeah, and Princeton is a team that you're going to see again. Obviously, I forget his name, their point guard that was really good. He went to Florida, I think it was.
Okay, well, they got another guy who I believe is sitting out so he can get the Princeton degree, and then he's going to go to the portal and save his eligibility and get paid in NIL and do that. So I know that's another guy they've got.
And that
we
so
won't
weak.
See, obviously.
That is so weak to get the Princeton degree and then dip. I forget the fellow's name, but I remember his the way his hair was cut, it would kind of bob when he dribbled, and it was pissing me off so much. But that's a Princeton team that's going to be way down this year. So and even last year, I feel like they vastly underperformed their expectations. So this is type of test that you only really got once before A10 play last year. Yeah, like I said, Wichita comes in 128 in the Ken Palm, so right around where you are. Like I said, I don't know how much stock to put into stuff like that when we haven't seen it out on the court yet. But yeah, big game, home and home. Like if you're gonna have to find creative ways to schedule things like this. And the Ramblers found three ways to do it with the neutral site game against North Texas, and then these back-to-back home and homes, obviously starting on the road at Wichita, and then coming back home for the first leg of that home and home series against Colorado State. So what do you got on the Rams?
The Rams, this is probably going to be one of our toughest non-con games. I think it's probably between this and one of those games out west. But Colorado State, they've had a ton of success in recent years. They made the tournament 3 of the last 4 seasons, and they were a bank shot buzzer beater. I think it was Patrick Queen who hit that shot for Maryland at the buzzer and banked it in.
Queen.
Derek Queen, yeah, Patrick Queen.
That's is the linebacker.
That's right. Okay, Derek Queen. Excuse me. Sorry,
yes,
Derek.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from him. That was a great shot. But they were, if he missed that shot, they were going to the Sweet 16 last year. They beat a good Memphis team in an upset in the first round. They did lose head coach Nico Medved to Minnesota. So Ali Farouk-Manesh, I'm sure that name sounds familiar to a lot of you guys listening out there. He's taken over, but he's obviously famous for hitting that three-pointer for Northern Iowa against Kansas, as I believe they were the 8th seed. Kansas was the 1 in 2010 to knock them off and go to the Sweet 16. So Farouk-Manesh has taken over there in Fort Collins for the Rams, and he's done a good job. And as assistant, I think he'll be a good head coach. Again, this is another team that's not bringing back very much star power, including Nick Clifford. I always screw his name up, but he got picked 24th overall by the Sacramento Kings in the NBA draft, so he will not be returning, which is good for us. They do bring in the top-ranked recruiting class in the Mountain West, including Augustinus Kirougelas. Some of these names are tough to pronounce, but he's coming over from VMI, who averaged 15.2 points per game and 6.3 rebounds last year. Josh Pasqualari, he's coming over from Marist. Shout out to the Red Foxes. He averaged 15.9 points per game. And then Brendan Rexsnyder, he's coming over from Virginia Tech. He averaged 7 points per game last season. I remember watching him in the ACC tournament a year ago. He had a couple of big games, and he's a guy who can definitely create his own shot. So 3 guys to look out for there. And I'm guessing Colorado State, they won't be what they have been in years past, which is a perennial tournament team. But I think they are a team that can certainly go to the tournament because they do have a lot of guys coming in, and they do have what I think is going to be a very good young coach. But again, this is going to be one of our toughest tests here. The game is at home, which is a huge advantage for us. I'm expecting a big crowd at Gentile for this one, and it should be a great game. But again, we'll keep saying this, but these are the kind of games you got to win if you want to be considered for that at-large position come Selection Sunday in March.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think this is going to be the Colorado State team that we've seen in years past, but they're still a very, very formidable opponent coming in at this one, well, who knows where they'll be coming into this one, but right now ranked 79 in the Ken Palm, 64th best offense in the country, 101st best defense. I'm trying to pull up the preseason poll right now. It keeps giving me the women's poll for some reason. Shout out to the Lady Rebels of UNLV coming in first in that one.
Oh, really?
Man,
They're first?
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
Yep. UNLV San Diego
here.
State. Okay. Yeah, you want to give it to me?
Yeah, well, I don't see Colorado State. You just want like the top 5 or 10 teams, or...
Just, where's Colorado State? Are they...
Oh, no. I don't see them even getting any votes. So, a little surprising.
Just for the Mountain West.
Oh, Matt. I'm looking at the AP poll. I was like, UNLV is number 1? I did not know that even for...
No, just in the Mountain West.
Let me look. I was looking at the AP poll.
Yeah, I'm testing out a new setup here, which... I realized I didn't have a keyboard directly in front of me, so I'm having to go off to the side to try to type stuff in on my laptop, and it's not going well so far.
Okay.
So hopefully by the next episode I will have I'll have my shit together there on that front. Looks like they were 7th.
I'm also seeing the women's.
Huh, interesting. Well, this is just one guy from the Nevada Sportsnet, Chris Murray. He gave his poll. He had Colorado State finishing 7th in this one. Oh, Grand Canyon,
Gotcha.
newcomer to the Mountain West. I didn't realize that change was happening this year. The Antelopes, good for them.
Yep. Yeah, they've been a perennial tournament team, and that's a big addition, I think, for them and the Mountain West. They were in the WAC, and that's definitely a big step up, and I think that's going to be good for them. So good for them.
Yeah, top 7 in the Mountain West. I mean, this is a conference that's been sending 5-6 teams to the tournament the last however many years. So
very good conference.
Should be a bubble team there. And like you said, it's one that you're at home. You'd love to get a win there. That's one that at the end of the season, when you're talking about bracketology, key wins, Colorado State. Like that's where that's the type of opponent we're talking about. And I think the same can be said for North Texas, and then obviously the conference game. So yeah, that'd be one that it's good to have. And it's like I said, I like that they're finding creative ways to bolster the schedule, whether it be through neutral site games, whether it be through home and home, or even what they did with San Francisco, where it was a home and home effectively, even though both games are going to be neutral sites.
Yeah. I agree. Yep, I like it. Very happy they scheduled that game.
Yep. Alrighty, this is going to be the last one that we're going to cover in part 1 of our season preview today. The Huskies of Northern Illinois. This one's going down on November 21st. What do you got on the Huskies?
Well, it's going to be a revenge game for Xavier Amos, so look out for that. But this is another team that's returning 0 minutes from last season. And the Huskies, they've been horrible for quite a while now. They went 6-25 overall, 2-16 last season in the MAC to finish in the cellar. Obviously, it's an interstate matchup, so you know NIU is going to come in with upset on their minds here. But this is a game if we play well again, it should be a game that we win very, very handily. I don't have too much else on this game. It's just Northern Illinois. They're not very good. They have a hideous court, so I'm very happy that we're not playing that game there and we're playing it at Gentile. But again, this should be another walkover, which I think the first 2 games of the season should be as well. Just go in, take care of business. Don't play with your food, and you should be good to win this game pretty handily.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we saw a lot last year, and whether it be they weren't tested enough to know how to finish games, whether it be, was it Southern Utah that they played? The Thunderbirds?
Yeah, the Thunderbirds, yeah.
Yeah, which...
Simpson, I think it was his name.
Yes,
he went off for like 30-something, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to think of his name, yeah. It can't be a game like that, and like you said, like an interstate rivalry, like you know that Northern Illinois, like I don't their coaches, but you know their coach has this one circled. This has one like, all right, like this is a rivalry game because simply because it's interstate. So yeah, just like you said, don't play with your food. Just go in, take care of business. This is a team that's 319th in Ken Palm right now. Like this is a bottom of the barrel MAC team. Like just go in, beat the brakes off of them, and then head into I think the next game that they'll play after that is going to be Northern Iowa, right?
I believe so, but let me double check here.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yep.
Well.
Yeah, that's the 25th. So leading into that.
Okay.
On the 25th. Yeah.
Northern Iowa, we're obviously very familiar with them, so that should be a fun one, which we can get into on the next episode. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the first 6 games of the non-con. Just overall thoughts, I think we've kind of been giving them here and there as we get through, but it's so much better than the schedule was last year. Like it is hard to overstate how much better this non-con is than the one they put together last year.
I think it would be impossible to be worse than you were last year.
Oh yeah, yeah. Last year, what they were, I forget what the exact number is. I'm sure we could go back into our.
I think
notes
they were bottom
find...
10 in terms of strength of schedule for non-con.
Yeah, I believe they were too. Yeah, I'm sure it's in our notes somewhere, but yeah, it was not good. So yeah, I'm excited that they're finding ways to test themselves early in the seasons and put themselves in position to be an at-large team, because I think last year that was a tournament team that we watched last year. It was. Yeah. It just simply was. And obviously they were in a position where it was A10 championship or bust, and they ultimately fell short. But that's a lot of pressure to put on a team where it's like, all right, we have to win the A10 tournament to get in here. Like I'm excited that they're going to be in a position, if they do what they need to do, to go into conference play being like, all right, if we finish top 3 in this conference, then we have a chance to be a tournament team even without getting the auto bid. And that's all you can really ask for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely far leaps and bounds better than it was last year. And like we said, we'll get into the next 6 games on the next episode. But 3 of these 6 games, I think, are going to be real games against real opponents. And you got to take care of business in those, obviously, and then you got to take care of business in the other 3, and try and come away with this first six games, first part of the non-con at 6-0, because I think they definitely have the talent to do it. I'm kind of expecting them to do it just because I think the talent is there, and this is going to be a really, really good basketball team. So I'm looking forward to it. My confidence is very high, and I'm hoping it can remain that high 1 month from now, because in 1 month those 6 games will be done. And I don't know about you, but I think we're going to be sitting here talking about a team that's 6-0 after those 6 games.
Yeah, I certainly hope you're right. I agree with you. Just to wrap things up, I did want to talk about the exhibition against DePaul. Like I said, I think that the DePaul fans, I don't begrudge them for taking victory laps. They won a really good game. I think it's absolutely ridiculous how many fouls were called. I have the box score here in front of me. There were 38 fouls called on Loyola, and where's DePaul? DePaul, there were 26 fouls called on. Obviously a game that went to overtime. I just don't think that under any circumstances you should be calling 64 fouls in an exhibition game.
That is insanity. Who wants to watch guys just stand at the free throw line the entire night? I certainly do not. It's so boring, and that's what you see in the level above this, which we don't have to get into that, but it's just... Nobody wants to see guys stand at the free throw line and shoot without anybody defending them. It's ridiculous.
Especially in an exhibition game. The game doesn't count. The game doesn't matter.
That's not it's not free throw practice, especially in an exhibition game.
Which, although, if we're talking about free throw practice, it looks like free throws are going to be a problem again for this Loyola
That's not a big
team.
surprise, I hate to say it, because we've been, ever since I started following the team, free throws have been a gigantic issue, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
but hopefully it's better, but maybe it's just one game, but that's maybe the least surprising thing that I've heard all day. It probably is.
Yeah. The exact numbers were free throws 20 for 32 at the free throw line, which I'm not even going to try to Zach versus math this one. I'm just going to do it on my calculator.
That's like 63%.
62.5, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 62.5% from a free throw line. I believe they had a 6-point lead with 45 seconds left, or somewhere around there, under a minute, and were unable to hold on. It was as high as an 11-point lead late in the game, and ultimately a combination of fouls and putting them at the line, and also not being able to convert your chances at the line lead to your downfall there. It's a frustrating loss. Obviously, I'm not going to get bent out of shape over losing an exhibition game to DePaul, because their administration's too scared to play Loyola in a game that counts. I think that much is clear. It's not their fans' fault. It's not any of that, but I am going to complain that there were 64 fouls called in an exhibition game. And it's something that always pops into my head when talking about these exhibition games. I think it's a John Rothstein tweet, here's a reminder, don't overreact to exhibitions. Sometimes there are no fouls called, other times they're telling them to over-scrutinize the fouls. Maybe it was a situation like that where both coaches came together and said, hey, have a real tight whistle, both of our teams are struggling with the fouls, so, make sure we're whistling it. That could be the case. I haven't seen anything from Drew or, I forget who the DePaul head coach is. Is it Holtman or something? It's the guy that was at Ohio State, right?
Yeah, Chris Holtman, I think.
Yeah. So I'm not going to get too deep into that, but yeah, it's just not a good product to watch 64 fouls, or listen to 64 fouls get called. My big takeaway, I tweeted this from this game, Justin Moore. 42 minutes coming off of a torn ACL in his first live game action, 26 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 for 3 from beyond the arc. One of the things that was highlighted in that Ramble Roundtable podcast and on the broadcast is that he has a new jumper. effectively, he worked with Keith Clemens all year, which we know the kind of three-point shooter Keith Clemens was in his
Love
time at
Keith.
Loyola. He changed the way he holds the ball so that it's a little bit further up on his fingertips. His fingers are a little bit further apart. And it's a higher release, so the ball hits the rim softer and gets better rolls. Obviously, we've seen that happen there. 2 of 3 from 3 in this one, so limited sample size, but it looks great. But I mean, what a player! I mean, just it's hard to overstate how big of a loss that was last year. They're undefeated, and then Justin Moore went down, and we kind of saw the wheels fall off. Obviously, we don't need a reminder of what happened in Hawaii immediately following that injury, but I mean, just what a player. Drew keeps calling him the best point guard in the conference, and the way that he was playing before that injury, and it like he played up to that standard. I mean, we were talking about a guy who was top 30 in assist to turnover ratio, careful with the ball, was able to penetrate, get into the defense, and then kick it out if he needed to, or finish at the rim. Any number to, and now he's developed a shot that can be lethal from there. It just makes him that much more dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, you said it all. I don't have much more to add on that, aside from I'm very happy that he's going to be back, very happy he's going to be healthy. Again, hopefully he can stay healthy, knock on wood here, which I think he's going to, and just having him being the point guard, being the quarterback out there, so to say, and running that offense, if he can do what he was doing, create open shots for other guys while not turning the ball over, and being able to have that 3-point jumper. I think he could be one of the best players, not only in the conference, but he could get nationally recognized and have eyes on him from that level as well. So very excited to see him, obviously back on the floor. Great to see him back out there. It always sucks for guys, and you feel for them when they go down with a serious injury like that and they miss the rest of the season, and it sucks, but he obviously kept a good attitude. He was positive. He rehabbed, and he's back, and it looks like he's better than ever, and he deserves it, and I can't wait to see him go out there and ball out this year.
Yeah, absolutely, and I kind of mentioned it, my last note on this one. It sucks that, at least for this one, they can't close out a double-digit lead late, shooting 62.5% from the free throw line, leading to a loss. It's just, it doesn't count, so who cares? It's a learning experience. It's okay. They can go back. I'm sure that they had their own film guys there to take video so that they can run it back in practices and things like that. But it's a team that hasn't played too much together. I mean, we talk about returning 3 starters, but aside from that, we just detailed them. 8 newcomers on this roster. Like, it's something that you can say, all right, here's what we did wrong, and here's how we can avoid that later. It's a learning experience, and that's what these exhibitions are supposed to be.
Exactly. Yep, learning experience, and again, it doesn't affect you whether you win the game by 100 or you lose the game by 100. It doesn't matter. It's just getting the feet ready, getting the legs ready, and getting ready for the real thing, which I can't wait for. So I'm ready to go, and I can't wait. College basketball is back, and very exciting, and I think Loyola is going to have a great season, and we're going to have another great year with the podcast, so it should be another fantastic year.
Yeah, and they talked about this on the broadcast. A bunch of people said it on Twitter. I said it on Twitter. Sudi read it on the broadcast. I've been beating this drum for a while. The college hockey in Massachusetts, they take the 4 Boston area teams, BC, BU, Harvard, Northeastern. They play what they call the Bean Pot at the Garden. It's a great way to recruit. It's a great way to get your students engaged. There's no reason why it can't be done in Chicago. There's no reason it can't be done either at the Wintrust Center or the United Center. Like I said, they do it at the Garden and they sell the place out, and that's only 4 schools. You can make it as big or as small as you want to. I mean, we can talk about expanding it to the Bradleys, the SIUs, the Northern Illinois of the world, the U of I, obviously, of course, or you can make it as small as you want with just the Chicago area schools, DePaul, Chicago State, UIC, and Loyola. It's just, you can do it as big or as small as you want to, but there's really no excuse not to do something like that, and especially when it comes to Loyola and DePaul, like we're talking about too, like, I think the A10 is probably the second or third best mid-major behind, like, the Mountain West and the WCC.
Yeah, and I mean, after this year when Gonzaga leaves, I'd say that it's the second behind Mountain West, so.
Right. So, like, we're talking about a bottom of the barrel Big East team against a team that's in the top third of the A10, which is no slouch of a mid-major. This game against DePaul needs to happen every year. There's no excuse for it not to. So whoever it is that needs to get involved in making that happen every year, they need to get their shit together and not deprive these fans of this, because this game means something. Like all the videos that DePaul and Loyola fans took from the Wintrust Center from this game, like the game means something, and it should matter for something more than an exhibition.
Yep, completely agree with everything you said. We got to get that happening, not just the game against DePaul every year, but that tournament too. I think that would be just a great idea. I don't know why they haven't done it yet, but hopefully if we keep saying it, they'll get it together and they'll make it happen.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Alrighty, I don't have anything else for this one. Do you have any closing thoughts, George?
Nope. Like I just said, can't wait. I love college basketball. It's one of my favorite things. You got games every night, and usually you got good games every night. And Loyola, again, they should have a really nice team, really nice year this year, and I think they got a chance to go to the tournament and make some noise. So again, it's good to be back, Zach. I'm fired up for year 2 of the Ramble On podcast, and I'm ready to roll. And let's go Blurs.
Yes, I echo all those same sentiments. It's going to be a great second season for the podcast, including the debut of our new logo, which is in the corner right there. Spent a little bit of time working on that. Obviously, I mentioned it before. Episodes going up on YouTube, so bigger and better things on the horizon for the Ramble On podcast. Like I said at the beginning, you can find me on Twitter at @co_Zach, George at @GG_Gabra, and the podcast at the Ramble On, or at Ramble On Pod. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Again, that's entering Kenmore. It is the right place if you find a Red Sox podcast. It's going to be the home to both for right now while we build up the channel. And then maybe eventually we can revisit it down the line and create a new one. But for now, that's where it's going to go. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week for part 2 of our season preview.